Thank you for joining us today. Anything you hear in this podcast is not to be taken for medical advice. This podcast is for information purposes only, and should you find something interesting in the information spoken about, please consult your physician further.
Thank you for everything. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Hello. Welcome to the Broken Road podcast. I'm your host, Trent Peterson. Today I'm joined by Dina Paetzold. How you doing, Dina?
I'm well, thank you.
I met Dina through church. She has an amazing story, and she's here to tell it to us today. So can you just start by telling us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll kind of get into the nitty-gritty of things. What are you doing up to these days?
Sure. Last year, my daughter and I were able to buy a home with a whole long list of blessings. God was just abundant. He showed up and showed off to help Maddie and I, who has cerebral palsy, and I'm disabled, but we were able to buy a lovely home, and we are just thrilled. We attend and do a lot of activities at church, and Lincolnville Baptist is our church home and our family, and we're just thrilled to be able to participate in so many things because we don't work outside the home. So.
Absolutely. Well, that's awesome.
Thank you.
Trying to think of where to even start. There's so much, I heard a lot. We discussed it before we got started today. Just trying to catch me up. Still a lot I'm sure I haven't heard. But what is your story for the Broken Road podcast? I guess I'm just going to let you go with it and kind of tell it the way you want to tell it today, and I'll interject as we go. And
okay, that would be great. November 24th, 1997, I became a survivor of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. I had gotten divorced on Friday before, and on this Monday, the judge had said, go and get your belongings. And I woke up that morning, and I was 33 years old, a mother of a 3.5-year-old son and a 2-year-old daughter. And my daughter had special needs. She had a seizure disorder and delayed development. And she had a visual issue, her googly eyes, for lack of a better term, but she had congenital esotropia and needed a place to recover from surgery in quarantine. And so the judge said, go get your belongings and get your home established so Maddie could have this surgery. And my brother-in-law, my best girlfriend, Angie, my brother-in-law, Lonnie, my girlfriend, Angie, and my mom's housekeeper, Nora, met me at the home with all our belongings, and we got everything loaded up, and this was in Plainview, Texas, and we were able to move everything to the new home, and we were unloading things when my ex-husband showed up there, and I was very surprised because I hadn't told him where we were living yet. Found out later that he had followed us.
Oh, wow.
But he showed up, and actually we had a piano that my mom brought back from Berlin wedged in the doorway. And he had gone into the home without any conversation. And he was trapped inside, and we were stuck outside. He helped us move this piano into the home and put it up against a wall. And that was exhausting because it was an incredibly heavy piano, but we...
moving a piano anytime is hard.
Well, 3 ladies, 3 girls, and 1 man on the inside, and one on it was a labor, but we were resting for a bit. They were, that my good friends were helping me, they were resting for a little bit, and when my husband and the ex-husband showed up, we had made an arrangement with the judge to share all of the family VHS tapes. We were going to duplicate half and half and then share them. So we each had a full set of Christmas and birthday and all that stuff. All these things were in a trash bag at the front door, and I was sorting through them, and he reached into his sleeve jacket and was pulling something out and glaring at me, and he said, "I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you." And he started swinging, and he used a claw hammer, the hook part, to chuck into my skull. The neurologist said between 10 and 12 times. They're not even sure how many. But I was laying there listening to this explosions in my mind and tried to scream out, but I couldn't utter any sounds. And I realized very quickly from the way I was laying on the floor that this very fresh apartment that had been repainted and new carpet for Maddie to recuperate from her surgery in, there was blood everywhere. It was on the walls and on the carpet. And I studied it a minute, and I had this incredible sense of anxiety. I'm making a terrible mess. And oh Lord, what if this is someone else? What if someone else's blood is what I'm looking at? And a man I've never seen before was in my face, just as real as I'm looking at you. This beautiful older man with kind eyes and wrinkledy and a gray beard. He said, "You're going to be all right. Everything is okay, and you're going to be all right." And I knew it was my angel. He spoke very matter-of-factly, very firm. He wasn't, he didn't have a soft, peaceful voice. He had a firm, matter-of-fact tone. You're going to be all right. And this sense of peace washed over me.
That's okay.
Nora was screaming, and Angie laid her hands on my back, and I just kept hearing, she just said over and over, "Oh, Jesus, oh, Jesus, oh, Jesus." And my brother-in-law, who was a sniper and was a medically trained EMT, and he had gathered up towels from one of the boxes that we had been moving in, and he held my head and my brains and told everyone to calm down. And the paramedics came right away, and I was conscious for this whole event. They put me on a gurney that wiggled and jiggled, and they slammed me into the ambulance, which was so loud I was really surprised. The sirens were blaring, and from the place of the apartment to the hospital was just down the block and around the corner to the hospital in Plainview, Texas. And I was in a room. It was very cold, and I could feel that on my skin, and they had cut my clothes off. And a police officer in a distance kept yelling at them, "I have to have those clothes. I have to have those clothes. That's part of a murder investigation." And I was very aware of being naked under these bright lights, that I was cold and somebody could put a blanket on me maybe. A male and a female nurse were having a conversation about what had happened, what my situation was. And the nurse said, one to the other said, "Well, she's already bled out once, and they don't think she'll make it, but they've called Care Flight."
And you could hear, you were
I
conscious.
heard
to something.
everything they said.
Wow.
Other doctors and nurses came in, and it was so odd to me. They stood at the head of my bed and leaned over me. So I'm looking up wide-eyed, and I'm watching their chin move upside down. This whole conversation about, "Can you speak? Can you tell me your name? Do you know where you're at?" And I wasn't able to utter a word. They manipulated me left and right, and I know they were looking for other injuries, other wounds and stuff on my person. And after some time of being there and freezing, they draped me in a really, really hot blanket and then strapped me in a gurney, and the straps were too tight, and I was way too hot. It was nauseating. I really thought I was going to throw up, but I was pushed out into the hallway, and a friend, Angie's husband, touched me. I felt him touch me somewhere, and and he was praying over me in the hallway. I could hear his prayers. And then I was pushed through gurneys that smacked from the gurney on the doors outside. And it was dark. And I was so surprised. I didn't realize that the sun had already gone down. I had no idea what time frame it was.
Right.
But I was outside and it was cool and it felt so yummy on my face. And I was wheeled through the cool air up under the helicopter. The propellers were so loud. And I got strapped in and situated in the helicopter. And the nurse was giving my vital signs to the pilot before they took off. Yeah. And the last thing I heard was the nurse say that she's going into shock. And
yeah, I was already thinking at this point, your body had to be going into shock. Yeah.
I don't know what time frame it was, but I was helivaced to Lubbock to UMC, and
which was probably a 30-minute flight, probably at the most.
I'm guessing it very short. I do know that God had already orchestrated everything for this whole event, because there was a team with my neurologist, who was one of the top in Texas. He was there with a staff of 16 people practicing on a very rare surgery to separate Siamese twins, little girls that were conjoined at the head. And so their team had been there practicing for a couple of weeks.
Oh, wow.
And when the call went out to some hospital who could possibly help this woman with a massive brain injury, my neurologist, Harold Smith, said, "Bring her here."
Well, that's amazing.
And so I had about 12 hours of surgery, just short of 12 hours. And the Harold Smith was talking to my family, and they had all gathered there with 70 or 80 people from Emmett First Baptist Church to pray and war over me and comfort my family. My mom had not cried at all during that time and waiting those 12 hours. But when a nurse came out and got the surgeon and said, "She's awake and you need to come," fear gripped my mom for just a little bit. But he came back very shortly and he said, "She's awake and she wants her mom." So anyway, the first few days were groggy. I wasn't in any pain. I didn't have, I just, there's no feeling in the brain anyway, but I wasn't in any kind of discomfort. I didn't have any pain. But on the fourth day, my speech up until then was very slow. It was a process to complete a sentence and stuff. But I was having blood drawn. My sister was with me, and my head got real heavy. And I'm sitting up in the bed at the time, but it felt like 50 pounds all of a sudden. And I felt my chin hit my chest and then totter back, and then it hit again. And I don't know what I looked like, but my sister and the phlebotomist called the panic button. And very, very quickly, there was a whole bunch of drama. The bed was laid flat. I thought it was kind of interesting at the time. I was completely unaware, but I heard the conversation that lickety split, I had a catheter. And I thought, well, that's cool. I didn't even know that was happening.
Right.
But they took me, transferred me to some place to do an x-ray of some kind. I don't know what it was, but it was down some elevators and through corridors. And there were, I'm laying there watching everything happen, and there's lights, and I'm following a green line, and there's lights flicking back and forth and slamming through the doors, and then I'm following the blue line. And anyway, at some point, everything stopped, and they had to call security because those doors were locked and they couldn't push through. Someone had been stealing purses from the nurses, so those doors were locked, and we had to wait for security to come. And when we got to the place where I was going to have this scan done.
CAT scan.
Yeah. Okay. This
Most of them just guessing.
amazing man who I thought was a giant. Turns out he had been a football player. He was almost 7 foot tall. He was huge. And he held my face and he said, "Oh, baby, this is going to hurt. This is going to hurt." And I felt like they put fire inside my guts.
Oh, yeah.
Burning feeling from the dye and stuff. And that's when they could see, they determined that I had had a massive stroke. And the only term I ever heard for it at the time was a T-stroke. And
which affected both sides of your brain, you said?
Yes. It was, I knew something was wrong then. I knew my thoughts were garbled up. My sense of touch was all affected. My vision was blurry. And that after this, you called it the CAT scan. After the CAT scan, I woke up in critical intensive care. And otherwise, I had been in a really neat, hidden, private room that no one would ever know was a room behind the nurse's station. In the critical intensive care area, I woke up.
Wide open.
There were beds everywhere and beeping and monitors and some people moaning. And I was very fitful. This is something bad has happened. I couldn't speak. I couldn't call out to anybody. But my angel man was still in my face. Ooh. And all I could respond was just, oh God, in my mind. I just repeated that over and over and over. At some point, after some period of time, which I couldn't even begin to guess, a man and a woman were at the foot of my bed, and they held my feet and they prayed over me, and I don't know who they were. I was told later. Whoops.
Well, it's not fun.
I was told later that no one should have been in there. No one should have come into that area to comfort me or pray for me. But there were people there holding my feet, squeezing my feet and praying over me. My recovery out of that CCU took 4 or 5 days. I had quite a few blood transfusions. And when I got back to my room, I was again hidden in that special room in order for family to see me. There was a new password every day. But they got me up and into therapy right away.
Yeah, so you're dealing with TBI already, a traumatic brain injury just from the attack. Now you've had a stroke. That's a lot, really fast.
It was.
Yeah.
And I had to get ready to go home and take care of a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old with special needs. So it was important to do as much as I can for them. And God was with me the whole time.
Yeah. So they got you back to the room. I mean, how long were you? Did you start therapy at that point in the hospital?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. Usually, I mean, they're trying to get you within a day or two, but I think we were talking about it. They couldn't give you any anticoagulants or any of that because of the other injuries he had sustained, right. And they were still trying to get that to heal up. Right. So they needed to have some amount of clotting to occur.
Right.
So you were in a really, really tough position.
I honestly, I guess I was, and I didn't realize how bad it was. One of the first, pitiful is not the right word, but it was bad. They got me out of bed for the first time, and 2 nurses and my sister Cindy schlepped me to the bathroom. It felt so good to not have a catheter and get to sit and empty my bladder for what felt like a really long time, but it was such a sense of, Yeah. And the first time I really understood that my brain is not working, my sister gave me a huge wad of toilet paper and said, "Wipe." And I said, "I don't know how."
Sure.
And I knew that I didn't understand how to operate the buttons on the TV. The first tray of food that came out, I couldn't figure out how to hold the fork or hold the spoon. I was so confused at my body not paying attention, minding me. You know, I'm telling myself, squeeze that fork, hold on to that utensil, you know, and manipulate it to your mouth. And I had no control over what my muscles, what my hands and body was doing. And it was.
But you were still inside there. Dina was still in there. You just couldn't, but your shell was not working the way it's supposed to.
Right, what has happened to me? I'm trying to articulate, you know, something is wrong. I'm trying to enunciate, trying to articulate words in a sentence was just so frustrating, so profoundly challenged. I'm like, something is wrong, and I'm just not able to. My body is not minding. My brain is not telling my body what to do properly, and it was really, really overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
I actually went to therapy that afternoon that I got back to my room, and they hoisted me up and made me start talking through, okay, you're going to look at your knees and you're going to talk to your brain, lift your knee up, lift your leg up, lift your knee, watch your feet. And I just remember thinking, what has happened and what will become of me?
And you're worried about others. You're worried about your family that you still got to get home and take care of.
I got 2 babies.
I try to explain it to people, and there's quite a few really good books out there that describe it better than I can. But it is a strange feeling to be to still know, okay, I'm Trent Peterson, but I can't articulate what I'm thinking in the same way. I can't move my body parts in the same way. I'm stuck, you know. And I'm sure you heard some of my stuff and my stories, but, you know, I was pretty quiet about it for a minute, what was going on. And I couldn't see, and then I figured out I couldn't walk once they got me up. But this is, I think, a good point to bring up when we're talking about this, is reminding everybody this was how many years ago now is going on?
It'll be 28 in November.
Okay, so most publications or anything you can read right now, what they were doing with you back then would have been almost cutting edge compared to what normal treatment was. They used to, and my therapists know, I've said this to them because I've read a bunch, but they used to meet you, treat you, and street you. So if you were able to feed yourself, clothe yourself, it didn't matter if it was just one hand, it didn't matter if it was fast, it didn't matter how long it took. But if you could feed yourself, clothe yourself, and use the bathroom, then you were done. That was your therapy. That was what they pushed for. So miracle to see you here today. Pretty neat. I just wanted to kind of add that on there. It was 20 years ago when you're talking about your therapy.
Yeah, it was.
So carry on. I'm sorry if I lost your
I'm glad to have the conversation. I was able to articulate enough that I needed to be able to dress my children, and I was worried about diapering Maddie, and we had one whole day of just playing with Velcro pieces and straps to manipulate getting a diaper on and off Maddie.
Mm-hmm.
But little buttons and my fine motor skills were just, and anyway, just really, really intense all day long therapy. I remember pleading with them, could I just have a little nap? Could I just rest for a little while?
Absolutely.
And they're like, no, when we're finished here, you'll be tired and rest tonight.
Oh yeah.
But it was very strategic. I do remember seeing the progress and my family being there cheering me on. The first week or so was just walking up and down an area up and turn around and go back. And I thought, I'm about to accomplish that. But the next challenge was doing some steps, which I was like, oh
yeah.
man, if I promise not to do steps, could we just skip this part?
Oh, yeah. I remember that part too. It was tough.
One of the injuries to my skull is a hole right here in the top, and I have proprioception. And so my leg wasn't able to tell where it was in space.
That's right.
And
Yeah, it's just floating out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
As far as your brain is concerned.
Uh-huh. And so I marched a lot. This gait, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
This stepping thing that I had was very odd. And, but I was ambidextrous before the attack, which I think is a blessing in hindsight. For the most part, I was right-handed, but I could use my left hand. My older brother was lefty, and he taught me many skills left-handed. Anyway, I wasn't able to use my right hand. It was just a weak limb now, so I there in the hospital started eating and using utensils left-handed. But when I was in the hospital, let's see, just a day shy of 3 weeks, and I still didn't walk very good, but I was able to dress myself for the most part. But we went to a family friend in Lubbock and stayed about 3 more weeks. And so
they released you after, which is a pretty typical for inpatient rehab. Situation. It's about 3 weeks. 4 weeks is kind of max. Yeah, really, it's 2 to 4 weeks right in there that they're trying to get you out. And then at that point, they probably didn't have what I was able to do with a day neuro program specifically, and those therapists are specifically trained for neuro, getting you back your function. Wow. So, but you had special help, right?
I did. My sister in Lubbock, we stayed at her mother-in-law's house, and every day she took me to therapy there at the hospital. And so I continued working with the same wonderful people. But and this is my sister Cindy, who's no longer with us, but she would help me bathe and get dressed. And as soon as I was just like that sigh of relief, I'm like, okay, we're going to go sit on the couch. She would start undressing me and make me do it over and over again. I mean, to the point of sweating and just crying. And we would laugh and cry. And she pushed me so hard to do, for self-care. And in the meantime, all of this is going on. My angel was still with me. The police were very involved with investigating.
Yeah, we haven't even discussed that part.
Yeah,
that's still going on.
Then it happened. The police were there, and there were lots of recordings that I heard during the trial times that were happening. How strange my voice sounded to me. How weird that I didn't recognize my own voice. I was taking captive some of my physical abilities, being able to tell my brain to do something. But I remember the feeling that I described to a speech therapist that, the baffled things that kids play in, big giant foam pieces. And in my brain, trying to get words from the back of my brain out my mouth, I was like going through these baffles and bumping into things and turning left and right, and then trying to say something, answer a question, and the struggle of getting it
I've never heard it described that way. That's a pretty interesting way to describe it. So you were dealing with aphasia too then?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just finished reading a book called Identity Thief, where a professor had aphasia really bad. She still deals with it, but it's a really good book. I feel like just if you get a chance, you may read it. I don't know. Are you able to read? Or do you have to do audiobooks?
Audiobooks.
Okay.
Audiobooks.
Which, I thought those are questions I have too as we go along, because I'm sure you're still dealing with regaining some things, stuff like that. But Identity Thief, if you get a chance, you may check that out. It's interesting. She does her best to describe that. and it's a little different, but that's a interesting way to describe the tunnel that you're trying to get it through, baffling and pushing through and to get the word out. Frustrating, so frustrating.
Very, very frustrating.
Yeah, especially when you know what you're trying to say, you know what you want to say. It's right there. And people get, that's another thing that goes over in the book, but I see it a lot because I go and volunteer up at Baylor. So I speak with people sometimes that are dealing with aphasia, and you have to have a lot of patience, which I used to not have much. I'm trying to be better about that now.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I definitely have more now, but I found that if I just sit there, if I'm trying to put words in your mouth, I'm sure that happened to you probably quite a bit when you were trying to do it, which is equally frustrating. And it's like, all right, well, I was this close to being able to tell you what I wanted to tell you, but now, I'm all messed up. Now I got to start all over again, push through all of that stuff to get out.
Right.
No, that's all I wanted, one word out of that.
Please don't.
Anyway, and there I am. I'm interrupting you. Anyway.
No, I'm glad to have the conversation. I promise. I promise. It's good.
So we were kind of getting back to it there, still doing interviews. Your voice sounds different. I can relate to that as well because I was asked many times, did you sound like this before the stroke? Well, I didn't know that I sounded different, but I was told my voice was really gravelly. It still kind of is now, but it was really, really gravelly then. I don't have any recordings to listen back to, but I can relate to that. But not only are you trying to heal at that time, you're also having to deal with the stress of helping the police do their work.
Right.
To get this taken care of, what needs to be taken care of. I mean, that's just a awful thing.
It was a very, very difficult situation. I was trying so hard to finish up everything in Lubbock so that I could get to my kids in Amarillo. One of the weird things that the neurologist would not let me wear a wig or a covering or anything. Every time the blood oozed out of the gauze on my head, they just put more on until I had this huge helmet of gauze on my head. And when the first time my family brought my children to see me in the hospital, Maddie wouldn't have anything to do with me. But, and that was heartbreaking.
Absolutely.
That was gut-wrenching. She was freaked out. I wasn't attached to anything, but I just had this huge helmet of gauze on my head, giant Q-tip, and they just did not know how to deal with what had happened, the huge shift in our life anyway. But I did get to move to Amarillo, which was a huge blessing. We were in the same room at my sister Delinda's home in Amarillo, and she is a physical therapy assistant.
Oh, wow.
And that was her career path. And she was so amazingly hard on me. She would.
I mean, that's what you need.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't realize it does seem unfair at the time, but that's what you have to have to make progress.
It was just, and looking back on that, they were so incredible and wonderful caregivers to Zach and Maddie. And but she would put that strap around my waist and walk me up and down the sidewalk around their house. And I remember telling her, people are looking at us, and she's like, well, wave at them, just smile. But she really did make me work hard. We'd walk up and down outside and then sit down on the couch for just a minute. And I'd say, oh, I'm hungry. And she said, there's fruit in the refrigerator. There's a snack on the table. Go get it. Like, oh, please just bring it to me.
You get a good lesson in vanity over that deal too, which is, none of us should be that way anyways, but it's human nature. And I kind of giggle a little bit when you said that about the belt, because, I think that was another thing. I was kind of embarrassed about it for a little bit. But I was walking funny. I couldn't talk right. I I was wearing what we called minion glasses,
Oh, no.
that helped me get my double vision to diplopia back because I was seeing too. So I had all these things going on, but that belt drove me nuts. Honestly, I was like, I want that belt on me, and they're like, "Yeah, you're wearing the belt." It's just
Yeah. I remember thinking for such a long time, people must think I'm drunk or tipsy or something because I walk this way and that way. And
I went to therapy with a guy that made his own shirts, and his shirt said, "I'm not drunk, I promise. I had a stroke."
oh,
Yeah.
I needed one of those back then.
I still kind of do right now. I mean, it just depends on the day. Some days are better than others.
Right.
I'm sure you dealt with that as well.
Absolutely. That sense of vertigo is still something that I'm challenged with.
So, and I keep jumping back and forth, but I am interested to hear, I mean, what happened to your ex-husband and how did that end up playing out before we move on to your recovery, how you got to where you're at now. I do want to address that because that's you were wrong. That's a traumatic event. Something needed to be cut done.
Well, he was still makes me twist up my guts in a knot. If he had attacked you in this manner, just a stranger on the street, without question, he would have been charged with attempted murder.
Absolutely.
Because I was his wife, and I hate to use the term the good old Texas boy in that mentality. Because I was his wife, it was just aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. And so he was looking at a maximum of 20 years. It actually went to trial 3 separate times, which was, the whole legal system felt so unfair. It was bizarre to me. They made me do blood draws 4 or 5 different times to prove that it was actually my blood and my hair and my brain tissue on that hammer that he used. It was just cruel, in my opinion. At the time I was on Coumadin and I had blood draws every single day. And so just being subjected to prove it, was harsh. But the first time he was sentenced to 15 years, but it was overturned on a technicality. And so 2 years later, we had to go back, and they had done the jury selection. And in the meantime, and I might be getting this wrong, this may have happened in the first trial, but I had been in therapy for a while, and a counselor, I kept saying, I had an accident. Can you help me? Yada, yada. But he said, this is not an accident. If a book falls off of a shelf and hits you in the head, that's an accident. Mm-hmm. But you were attacked, and, own it. This is what happened. And he said, you're going to have to develop a thicker skin. You're going to have to ask for help, especially because leaving the hospital after this nearly 3 weeks, they brought all of these papers for me to be discharged, and I couldn't read anything. Right. And that was the first time I discovered that I couldn't read anymore, and that I had no idea what my signature was. I couldn't write. And that meant a huge life shift for shopping. What is this canned soup?
Everything.
What kind of tomatoes are this? And what is this medicine that Maddie needs? Tylenol or Motrin? And that to me was the biggest challenge, and it has been the biggest issue of these last 27 years. But I lost my train of thought. Well,
that's okay. No, we were, I kind of got lost in it too.
Second trial.
Yeah, you were talking about, yes, and we had
the counselor
messing with you and kind of messing around. You had to grow thicker skin.
The lawyers went to talk to the judge. He called the lawyers up, and this whole panel of jurors were seated, and they each had on these really big buttons with the word on them. And the whole morning I had wondered, what what is that? And so they were all talking, and I looked at the woman next to me and I said, what does that say? And she said, juror. And my ex-husband's legal team jumped on that real quick.
Oh, yeah.
And said that I had swayed the jury. And so they made it and declared it a mistrial, and I was livid. Well, the next time that the trial was about to go was May the 19th, and they had already picked the jury, and we were ready to go. But my mom passed away that morning, and I was livid that they canceled it, that they postponed it, and because I thought, man, my ex-husband is doing a jig that my mom died, and he's got more time off, and that hurt. That hurt me bad. But the next time it went to trial, he was convicted 20 years, and in all, he served almost 17 years. I don't know if it's long enough, but I am so thankful that I have a sense of peace about that. I'm not responsible for his punishment. His life and his choices, that's his life and his choices. And I remember the sense of freedom I felt it some years down the road, because originally I had wicked thoughts of what I wanted to happen to him.
That'll ruin you too.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm sure.
Living in hatred and anger all the time about, oh me. And anyway.
And you can't control outside of anything but how you deal with it anyways.
Right.
Why?
Right. The sense of peace that I received over at some point in learning to live my new life was that God's got this. And if he's at my agape feast, I will pass him the potatoes. Yeah. It's okay. He gave me 2 incredible children. Mm-hmm. I am blessed because I knew that man. And I never imagined that my life would take the turn it did, that I would not be a career-focused mom. But God knew in advance, and that Maddie had special needs, that she was going to need to go to therapy 4 or 5 days a week, and that I was going to need that therapy too, so we'll just do it together. And anyway, so I became the house in the block where everybody came after school. I always had snacks and cookies and stuff, and the kids were always playing at my house. And that was so yummy.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it's really neat. It's crazy how he works. And just how, I don't know that everybody does it, but I think to be resilient and to be able to move on from something, you do have to see the love in it and the good that it does bring in your life. Right. Everything slowed down for me too. So what did you do before the attack, or what were you planning on doing before that? And I asked that because you said something about career goal mom.
Yeah, I worked in corporate accounting and insurance, and I just really thought that I had worked in the fast pace of Dallas for a while, Chicago for a while, and I just thought that I would be a mom to drop my kids off at school and go to work, and that's not how things turned out at all. When we got moved to Amarillo, on Maddie's 3rd birthday, actually, Maddie was born premature and was diagnosed with cerebral palsy and, of course, a vision problem. And she had a seizure disorder that never did get fully diagnosed. It ran the gamut. So we had wonderful friends and family in Amarillo, and through my sister's network of people, I introduced Maddie to progressive step rehabilitation in Amarillo. And because there were so few women like myself with an open head injury and the type of stroke I had, I was able to start therapy also. And 4 or 5 days a week, Maddie and I were there, and we had occupational, physical, everything.
Well, that's a blessing.
It was
It's all right
wonderful.
there, yeah.
I was able to gift back to lots of the students who were there for clinicals, to run me through all the tests and try and help evaluate me for treatment and stuff. And so it was a blessing to be able to do that for them to further their career. And
I'm sure you furthered the field of neuroscience with everything they went through, getting you back. I mean, you had to. I think you probably gave back a lot more than you even know, because that, just everything I've read, 20 years ago just wasn't much to be said about it 20 years ago. And you've made amazing recovery, and you were saying that you're still seeing improvement even recently, correct?
Yes. After 23 years of my life being on, in the groove, just struggling with vertigo and alexia and agraphia. And over those 23 years, I began to recognize certain letters of the alphabet, specifically first name and last name. And but I was not able to read. I saw shapes of letters and holes in letters and sticks and blocks, but I couldn't put words together. But my neurologist said I was definitely an anomaly, that I never had an issue with numbers. I recognized them right away. I could keep track of time, and I could make number notes for, like, I gave Maddie this medicine at this time, and the next time, I set alarms for the next time she needed to have it. And but in 2020, with everything shut down, my sister in Dallas, my sister Cindy, passed away from COVID and issues from that. But the church had announced a 5K, and I wanted to be physical. I wanted to be healthy. And so I was exercising at home, and I started crocheting and watching tutorials. And over a period of time, redundancy of watching these tutorials, specifically an English woman, chain one, in her whiny voice, I was typing, and I was always able to type. I was a prayer warrior this whole time. I could type almost 100 words a minute. I didn't look at the screen because that gave me vertigo. I could cover it up, but I could type. That skill never left me. But I started typing out my own crochet patterns, like baby blankets and booties and things like that. And at some point, I told the ladies at church, I said, I think this is kind of reading. I think I recognize the initials for chain and stitch, and I think that I think this is the beginning of reading. And during 2022, really ramping up. And I won a medal in that 5K.
Oh, cool.
In my senior division. Yes, I got the bronze medal.
That's what I'm talking about.
I need to get back at it. But I was worshiping at church with Maddie close to the front. And this incredible, euphoric, amazing event happened. The lit up words at the front of the church I had never asked about. 3 words up there in 2 different fonts. The 2 words of the same font lurched out at me during praise and worship. And I felt a physical jolt, and my knees buckled, and I was sitting in the seat, and my daughter said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "That says the King." And she said, "Yeah, it says worship the King." And I had never bothered to ask. And anyway, over the next few days, there was a baby shower at the church. And afterward, I went down the hallway to the restroom, and I saw the word on the ladies' restroom door that I never knew. It said cowgirls. And anyway, bits and pieces of recognizing words and this being able to read again was unfolding after 23 years.
That is amazing.
I was having some problems with vertigo at the same time, and a harder hit of vertigo, dizziness. And I made an appointment with my family doctor here in Stephenville and a man of God. And I told him what was going on. And he said, this is a healing. And I can send you to neurologist. We can do tests and stuff. But he said, this is absolutely an unprecedented gifting from God. It's healing. Rest and pray about it and find peace in it. This is just a new season. The hearing in my deaf ear from the attack was restored, which was causing all this weird imbalances.
Yeah, ear balance. And your vision problems. It's affecting your balance as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hearing things from both sides of my head, and it's just been an incredible
that's amazing
blessing.
And that's been
Yes. The kids were, this was when we lived in Amarillo. The kids were probably 4 or 5. And several years of not being able to smell after the attack. I just walked through a room like any other day, and I said, who farted? And Fox chirped up and he said, you smell that? And I was able to smell. The first thing was just a little boy's windy britches, but I had just given Maddie a bath, and I smelled her hair and and the lotion on her little body, and I got into the refrigerator and I smelled vegetables and fruit and pickles, and I called my sister and she brought a bouquet of flowers, and I smelled my mom's perfume jar, and anyway.
And this is all fairly recent as well?
No, this was just a few years after the attack.
2 years after.
And my sense of smell isn't accurate anymore. It's not what it was before. The first thing I knew that was off about it was driving one day, and I smelled something so delicious to me. I associated it with a specific rainfall camping in Eagles Nest, New Mexico. And it was just so, I was there. I smelt the rain, and my kids were screaming, it's a dead skunk. It's a skunk. And I said, it's wonderful. I love it. It's just the most yummy. I'm so thrilled to be able to smell it, because it is not yucky.
It's the simple delights. I mean, you don't know until you don't have it.
Right.
The simple pleasures. And, when you talk about the not being able to read, and I mentioned that that's everything. There were so many things that you just, on a daily basis, being a healthy person, you just don't pay attention to. It's just like, well, you just take it for granted. Yeah. I can see fine. I'm not dizzy. I can smell everything. I can talk fine. I mean, all those things. And then when it's not there, if you gain any of it back, it's just the most amazing thing ever.
Right.
And it's really hard when you don't have it. So when you talked about not being able to read, I couldn't read obviously at first because double vision was so bad. I couldn't see. I don't even know. Amber's sitting in with us, by the way. If you see me looking over and hear her talking every once in a while, was I even able to read when I left the original therapy, the inpatient rehab? I don't think I.
To concentrate on anything.
Right. So.
And I think the first time they were able to know that you could was when we were working on, can you read plans? Can you do the computer? Can you realize that the computer gave you vertigo?
So I totally related to that. I don't even know if I said that, but when you were saying that the computer gave you vertigo. That's the first time I heard anybody else say that too. But man, it would. Everything would make me nauseous if I had to concentrate on it.
Right.
But I did do a lot of therapy myself. I am reading. I got a stack of books sitting over there. I've read all those.
Way more than you ever have since we've been together.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying, because I can now, and it's just like, and I had that moment where I couldn't and I wanted to. I listened to a lot of podcasts and a lot of audiobooks, and I was at that point just trying to figure out what was going on with me, because you you went through the whole gamut and still probably have to go to the doctor and stuff. I mean, the medical field is even when you were talking about them laying around while you were sitting there cold and naked talking, there's a disconnect. And I need to write a blog on that. I've actually forgot about that, but you reminded me. It was something that I was very interested in writing something about. The disconnect that's a human laying there when you deal with it day to day. Same as my buddy Dexter that comes in here. He's in the medical service, emergency medical service, and he's a firefighter paramedic. But he's seen so much. I mean, he's very desensitized to that. I mean, I think he's probably pretty good. Thank goodness I've never had to have him working on me, but at the same time, when you talk to him about it, he's very blunt about it, so there's a disconnect, I think. And maybe it was a Stronger After Stroke book that I read that they talk about the need for a caretaker or advocate with you when you're in the hospital is so important, because they just kind of look at you like a slab of meat. I know that it's not what they went into that field to be, but after dealing with it for so long,
they get desensitized.
Yeah.
I remember thinking that they if I could speak, I would be saying, that's not nice.
Right.
Speak life into my situation. Speak life into this. I know that the man that came into the rainbow carpet cleaning guy was a friend of Angie's there in Plainview. He came in to clean up after my attack, and he sold the business, and he could not do it anymore. And the pilot and the nurse who did the care flight, they were friends who reconnected afterward, and they were thrilled to know that I had survived it, because they didn't think that I would survive. Anyway.
Those are special moments. I'm hoping to go back and talk to some of the original people that took care of me. I have seen the attending doctor that originally kind of said, "Hey, you're going to have to go on the hospital, on a helicopter, and we're going to fly you out. You're in bad shape." I've seen him, which is cool. He was surprised. Oddly enough, they didn't ask me, and I missed having a neurologist for a good first portion of this whole experience. And my physical therapist, Jeremy, he's a good friend of mine now. Outside of that, or I consider him a good friend. He was a big push on a lot of levels for me. Everybody up there, they're unsung heroes at that day neuro program and in the inpatient upstairs. All of them I consider friends at this point. But anyhow, he is asking me, like right before I was discharged, he said, something about a neurologist. I said, "What's a neurologist do?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, whatever." He's laughing. I said, "I'm serious. What do they do?" He goes, "Are you telling me you had a stroke and you went through this whole thing and you hadn't had a neurologist?" I said, "No one ever told me I needed to have a neurologist."
Oh my gosh.
When I did go back to see the neurologist, which
A couple of weeks ago.
yeah, we're still working through that. They're still doing tests on me. Now they're doing all the tests that they would have done then. And a lot of this has to do with my disability, stuff like that, trying to confirm, for the insurance companies, which is a whole nother podcast of what the insurance companies do, which is going to come up.
But when you first walked in the doors.
Yeah, when I walked in the door, he's like, Oh, well, you look a lot better than I was expecting.
Well, that's a compliment.
Yeah, it was. I said, well,
Thank
thanks
you.
for the kind words.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not sure exactly what you were expecting, but thanks for the kind words. That's great.
Wow.
So, um,
When you said something a minute ago that made me remember about, I don't know, a month after we were moved in Amarillo and working hard every single day. I don't know what the circumstances were, but my sister felt like something was wrong. Maybe I'd had another stroke. So she took me to Lubbock immediately, and we went into the imaging center there at UMC. And when they were the people who attended to me there at the hospital. Anyway, some of them who recognized me, I didn't recognize any of them, but some of them recognized me right away and said, "Hammerhead." And my sister was so offended. She was like, "Oh, that's not nice." And they were like, "Oh, we didn't mean anything bad. That's just how we recognize you. All we could see were your pretty green eyes. And that's how we just called you Hammerhead." Anyway.
wow.
But
Hey, but they were excited to see you
Yeah.
too. So
yeah, exactly.
obviously it was a term of endearment, even though it wasn't.
It was kind.
Wow. Well, so is there anything else that we haven't hit on yet that you wanted to talk about? I got some other questions, but I'll
Okay.
let you.
Just real quick, I want to
Yeah.
say that my sister and the staff at Progressive Step were amazing at helping me with new life skills, because I couldn't smell anything. So Zach was real quick to say, "Maddie has feed yard pants. I need to change a dirty diaper."
Right.
And if I put something on in the stove, my short-term memory was really, really defective. We figured up a system of alarms, buzzers, beepers, and stuff. And a nail polish on, we bought like a pack of 10, and the one with red nail polish on it was anything that I turned the flame on. If I had something on the stove or in the oven and that alarm went off, I knew what that was for. We had a white
Oh, and you
one.
could just scrape it off when you were done, I guess.
We color coded it.
Oh.
We
Okay.
color coded it so that I knew if that alarm went off, what it was for.
Okay.
A white one was for the washer and dryer that were out in the garage outside, and I wouldn't hear the beeping anyway. I had
I'm following you now. Now it took me a second.
sorry.
No, it's okay. I was sitting there trying to visualize it. Now I got it. You got timers in the house
Yes, and
that are operating the different
clipped-
things you're trying to.
Yeah, that I could clip to my pocket. And if the one with pink on it went off, that was something for Maddie, like time to give Maddie medicine.
Right.
And there were just this amazing set of life skills. Like I couldn't bend over to reach into the dryer. I kept falling. So we got a comfortable stool for me to bend on to get things out of the dryer so I didn't fall. I had the staff at Progressive Step made me this amazing, not laminated, but a notebook with pictures that slid into the pocket, a dry erase notebook. And it had diapers and wet wipes and milk and bread and cereal and fruit and whatever. And I could mark that. And that was my grocery list. So I could go to the grocery store. And when I bought it, I would rub that marker point off. And so there were just a lot of things to help me with functioning, daily living skills.
Those are unsung heroes. I cannot speak enough about therapists in that world and what they're capable of doing, first of all, and how they look at you in a totally different way that other people don't look at.
Right.
You know, I mean, down to the simplest thing, but they figure out how to make things work for you and how to get the most out of you.
Yes.
You know, that's a special skill set. That's not.
Would that be occupational therapy?
I mean, all the different modalities, they all have their own niche.
Mm-hmm.
Occupational therapy does, I think, kind of pull pulls them all together, but it takes all three of them, and they all three have their own different way of getting what you want out of you, you know? So I'm glad you actually wanted to spend time and mention them, because it's an important part of my journey too.
Yeah. They were just so hands-on about what do you need and how can we help facilitate something better for you at home with your children.
Yeah.
And then in turn, I used that with Maddie's teachers at Progressive Step and at her PPCD, preschool program for children with disabilities. For instance, if the color of this week was yellow, well, we would all wear yellow clothes. We would eat yellow food. We would do everything we could to reinforce her learning that. And at the same time, my family and the staff at Progressive Step were really doing everything they could to reinforce a normal life situation for the kids and I.
Yes, I mean, that's so many years have passed on that. You're very pleasant, and your beautiful smile. Obviously got a lot of resilience. Inspirational. I mean, it's just amazing. But I'm sure I'd like you to share, I mean, the reality that where's your strength come from? I know where it comes from, but I want you to tell us.
My Heavenly Father, being able to reach out when I woke up in the critical intensive care, and feeling incredibly frightened about these sounds and stuff, and knowing that my brain was different now, that the first few days after the attack, I had an angel with me, and that was all incredibly comforting to me. But when I knew that I was broken, and I could call out, "Oh God, oh God, oh God," and that angel was there with me, I knew that he was my creator, and he had brought me this far, and he would get me to the finish line. I just have so much gratitude. I know that Satan crawled up into my ex-husband and did something cruel and unnecessary that hurt so many people. But God said, I'm going to glorify this.
Yeah, I'm going to take this and make something really neat out of it. Yeah. It has. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's very much an honor to have you here today and be able to visit with you and
thank you.
Hear your story. And I hope that it reaches more people.
Amen.
And gives them.
Right.
So many people get stuck in a bad place, which is, Lou Giglio wrote a book I just finished reading not very long ago. It says, don't give the enemy a seat at your table. And people do that all the time. I think even Christians and non-Christians even more. But as in general, people do that. And it's pretty easy for me even to sit back and just have a pity party and, roll over and not want to get out of bed. I got a million different excuses to do that. But when you hear a story like yours and know that you made it out here today, and that you've done this for so many years, and you're still smiling.
Trying.
Yeah, trying and pushing for something. It kind of makes the excuses seem silly. So I hope it reaches somebody that's having a hard time getting motivated to do something, even if they're not going through a traumatic event, if just a life event in general, just something that's not easy. Look at it through a little different lens and say, hey,
count your blessings.
Yeah, that's right. Count your blessings. And if you can do it, I can do it too. So, well, thank you so much.
I'm so proud of you. I wish something like this had been available to me 27 years ago. I'm so proud of you. I admire what you guys have got going and the blessings, the seeds that you're planting for people. There's hope. Yeah. There's hope.
There absolutely is, and you're not alone.
No,
that is our biggest thing. It's for people to understand you're not alone. So, hoping for bigger and better things. Most of my therapy team and the people that I know up there and the peer mentorship program, they knew through my recovery time up there that I told them I was going to do this, but I don't think they actually see, there's a lot of talk, not a lot of action a lot of times. So I'm very hopeful for the future and going to go whichever way God sends it. I don't really have control over that, but at this point it's been really good for my recovery as well. And hopefully we're reaching out to some other people and helping them.
Amen. Yes, sir.
Awesome.
How nice of you to be the co-pilot. Let him guide the path of this. And
I started writing the other day we're about to release it. We're going to be able to take donations, and I was writing kind of the way I'm going to present that, because I'll have to record it and I forget things. So I'm writing that down so I can say it like I want to say it, get everything out. But I did put co-founder in there, which I'm co-founder with a bunch of people, but really I meant co-founder with God, because
Amen. That's it.
and it's such a huge part of my story too. And he got a hold of me and woke me back up. It's super blessed to be here.
What a sweet, sweet testimony you have.
Thank you.
Blessings on you and your family.
Yep. Well, I love you. Thank you so
I love
much for
you.
coming
Thank
today.
you. Thank you so much.
Take care. We'll catch you on the next episode.